Hey y'all, hey. Sorry if I sound terrible. I'm sick as hell, but I just have to get this off my chest. I have to. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to hear about this shit no more. I understand why this conversation is coming up because of the fact that they're both on tour. But outside of them both being on tour right now at the same time, there is absolutely no reason on God's green earth why we are trying to compare Taylor Swift to Beyonce, and more disrespectfully, Taylor Swift to Michael Jackson, which we'll get to in a second. I'm not going to be here very long because I don't even really have to go in that much to talk about why we should not be comparing them. But let's go through them. First of all, they are not peers. Let's really have the conversation. Taylor Swift and Beyonce are not peers because number one, they are two completely separate generations. So let's start there, okay? And that'll even go into my next point. Beyonce came out with Destiny's Child in what, 97? Taylor Swift didn't even come out till about 2006, 2007. Meaning, my good girl had a good 10 years on this girl. She had about 3 different albums with Destiny's Child, multiple number one hits with Destiny's Child. By the time 2006 and 7 comes around, Beyonce is on her second, going into her third solo album. Dangerously in Love, 2003. B-Day, which I think is 2000 and maybe 5 or something like that, and then going into the Sasha Fierce era. I'm very much so lost as to why they're even get compared when again they're not even in the same generation. I just said this about Rihanna. Rihanna and Beyonce shouldn't even be compared because they're in different. By the time Rihanna came out, to be quite honest, Taylor Swift is more of a Rihanna peer. Rihanna and Taylor Swift are more peers than Beyonce and Taylor Swift are. If we're just simply talking about generations, there's no way that Beyonce has a good 10 years on this girl in the industry as far as accolades, being out, being very successful, and y'all still trying to compare her to this girl who came out a decade later than her. So let's just start there from a timeline perspective. They're not in the same conversation because they're not even in the same generation. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, let's talk about impact. Let's talk about, because we're going to take the numbers off the table. Okay? Because numbers, we'll get into that in a second, but let's talk about impact. Let's talk about impact for a second. In moments, because shout out to Nick from That Singer Reacts, he brought this up too, which is a great point. Let's talk about impact in moments. I apologize, y'all. Like I said, I'm a little sick. Taylor Swift's biggest moment, her most known moment, is still connected to Beyonce. Hold on. Sorry about that, sneeze fit. But Taylor Swift's biggest moment is still connected to Beyonce. When most people think about, I apologize, y'all. When most people think about Taylor Swift, and the number one moment that comes to mind about her is what? When Kanye West went on the VMA stage and took the mic from her and said, "I'm sorry, Taylor, not to cut you off, but Beyonce has the biggest video of all time, which was Single Ladies at that time." So even your biggest standout moment is connected to Beyonce. Do you want to know why? Because Beyonce was the biggest thing in the world. So one of the things I get irritated by this whole little comparison is that's why I said take the numbers off the table. Y'all been doing this with this girl since before she was even where she is now. Let's really have a conversation about this. Y'all been trying to pipe this little girl up to be more than, and like I said, where she is now, absolutely, she's a powerhouse. But let's not try to act like y'all have not been trying to use this little white girl to pretty much try to downplay Beyonce since the very beginning. When that whole situation happened with her on the VMAs, that was like 2009. That was when Beyonce was in her Single Ladies era. And she lost for video of the year to this little white girl for, I think it was for like a love story or something. This is pre Taylor being who she is now. So let's not try to act like there's not an agenda. There hasn't been an agenda from the very beginning to try to use this girl to try to downplay the accomplishments of this black woman. Because race comes into a point blank period. We're not gonna act like this is, oh well, look at her numbers now and da 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 da. They've been doing this from the very beginning, before Taylor was even who she is now. Yes, at that time Taylor Swift was bubbling up as a new girl who was a little bit trying to get, she was steaming a little bit, but she was nowhere near how she is now. And at that time, y'all was trying to pout her up to be more than what she was compared to Beyonce at the time. So let's really have a call. So let's talk about it in that sense. Okay, her biggest moment that she is known for is connected to Beyonce. The reason why she catapulted the way she did is because of that moment. And y'all can sit up there and act like she wasn't, but but when Taylor Swift popped off, I was in high school. So I have a very clear memory of how that went. Like I said, yes, at that time, Taylor Swift was bubbling. Yep, she had Love Story, because I liked her at the time. I liked Love Story. She had you wear t-shirts, oh, you belong with me. She had those two songs, but she wasn't to where she is now. She wasn't, and that's fine, because that was in the beginning of her career. Okay, so at that time, it was kind of crazy to give her, it was not kind of, it was very crazy to give her that award when Beyonce had Single Ladies, literally the biggest thing in the whole wide world at that time. To this day, Single Ladies is still one of her biggest songs. So y'all been trying to play Beyonce for the longest and trying to compare her to somebody that she has no business even being in the same room as her, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? What other impactful moments and things have Taylor really did to shift the music industry? Like, I'm talking about to truly shift it. Not just shift it, but what big moments can you really attribute to Taylor? I really want to, let's talk about it. I'll wait. What what? I don't know. I really don't know. That is literally the biggest quote unquote pop moment attached to Taylor, is Kanye snatching that thing from her. Facts it is. What else? The only other thing we know about Taylor as far as moments is concerned is the various different men that she done went out with and broke up with and wrote an album about. What? The fact that I think she re-released maybe like her album because of some writing credit situation. I think. You see how I'm struggling to even come up with moments that's attached to her? How many iconic moments has Beyonce had? The Love on Top reveal, Single Ladies as a music video as a whole. Okay, we can even if we want to talk about artistry, what moments artistry wise, as far as music videos and type of impact has she had? Let's not even get into Self-Titled. The way that completely shifted and shook the industry. Dropping a surprise album, starting that. Literally shifting the day that albums are dropped. People was dropping albums on Tuesdays. This girl dropped it on a Friday. Literally shifting the date of when people drop. On top of that, like I said, ushering in the Surprise Era album. That was 10 years ago at this point, and we still stand for that. Dropping Lemonade on HBO. Having her homecoming Coachella moment. Dropping Black is King on Disney. This whole tour right here, right now. Yes, I know that the Eras tour from Taylor Swift is doing numbers and stuff like that, but I don't hear of any moments, no real impact. I don't hear of no moments from that show. I don't see nothing that's trending from that daggone show that's standing out as moments. The only thing I see is a lot of people, the one thing I will give her is what I do see is a lot of people was like kind of camping outside of the arena and stuff like that for the people who couldn't get tickets. Outside of that, I'm talking about the actual show itself. I don't see no moments from that. This tour alone, you got moments with Blue Ivy, okay? Coming out and killing it. You literally have the mute challenge, which is something that Beyonce didn't even come up with. Okay? You got the big three, the big three, thick, drunken love, all up in your mind. You have that just with this tour alone. She's having moments, legitimate moments. What impact or moments does Taylor have? She sold a lot. Don't get it twisted. Yes, the whole situation with Ticketmaster, yes, that was crazy. I'll give her that. I'll give her that. That whole situation with Ticketmaster, her selling out like that and crashing the site, that was crazy. Okay. And what else? What else have we heard about this tour compared to Beyonce's tour? Like, let's really talk about it. What other moments have we heard? I'll wait. We have not. We have fuck not. If we really want to get into overall, as like a artist as a whole, people would like love to say, oh well, Taylor Swift writes all her songs. Whoop de doo for her. Great for her. I'm not saying that's great that she writes her songs. That's great, but let's not act like Beyonce doesn't write any of her songs. Yeah, she gets help. Yeah, she has writers, but it's crazy that it's only when it comes to Beyonce y'all try to downplay her for that, because nobody else gets downplayed but Beyonce for getting people to write her songs. We've had a long line of history from the beginning of time of music of people writing other people's music. Now all of a sudden she gets downgraded because of that, and y'all make it seem like she's never ever ever written a song, and she's never written #1 songs, which she has multiple times. Whitney Houston has never wrote a song. Are we saying that Taylor is now a better singer and a better artist than Whitney Houston? Because Whitney Houston has never ever ever written a song? Is that what we're saying? I'm listening. When we have these conversations, y'all never talk about Mariah. When it comes to Taylor, Mariah has written all her songs. All her songs. But you can never compare Taylor to Mariah, not in any standpoint. If we want to, let's take Beyonce off the table. If you want to take in writing credits, singing ability, number ones, Taylor don't stand nothing when it comes next to Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey writes all her songs. She arranges all of her songs. She has multiple #1s. That's long fucking standing. So what's up? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And then if we want to talk about visually, Taylor Swift has never, ever, 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 ever produced anything. Not even one solid video. Not one solid video has she ever made that competes. Especially if we want to use from, hell, I could go back to I Am Sasha Fierce. But let's just stick to this decade. To the past decade. Nothing from Self-Titled and up. In this Renaissance visuals in particular, there's nothing that Taylor has as far as a video that even stands even close to anything that Beyonce has done visually. Not one. There's not one fucking thing that y'all can name. Not one. Not one damn video. Not one. Yes, she makes albums that she writes, but conceptually, visually, creatively, nothing that girl has ever made can compare to what Beyonce. Self-Titled, Lemonade, Black is King. Hell, I'll even throw in Everything Is Love, the album with her and Jay. Even when I look at the concerts that y'all had, that she has going on, nothing compares visually. Nothing compares creatively. There are levels. And again, this is not to say that Taylor is just a dud and she don't do nothing and she ain't good. She is literally a pop star. She is a legit pop star, freaking heavy damn hitter. You want to know what I'll say? If we talk about in today's age, if we want to talk about who's doing what or whatever, as far as her generation is concerned, which is why I said her and Beyonce shouldn't be compared because they're different generations, Taylor Swift stands alone in her own generation, absolutely. Anybody that came up, like I said, the only other person that can kind of stand with her is Rihanna, because they came out around the same time, 2005, 2006, 2007, that little era right there. That's the only other person that stands with Taylor even a little bit would be Rihanna. Rihanna and Taylor, those are the girls of that generation. Facts of the matter. They stand separate from the bunch. Big facts they do. Big facts. And you can't compare Taylor to nobody else that came out in her era and nobody else underneath it. Not no Selena Gomez, not no fucking nobody else compares to Taylor when it comes to that generation. But what we're not gonna do is disrespect Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter and putting her against somebody that she literally has more than a decade and more than. We're not gonna do that. That's what we're not gonna do. We're not. Like I said, all y'all could bring up is the fact that Taylor writes all her stuff. But does Taylor sing better than Beyonce? No. Does she dance better than Beyonce? No. Does she perform better than Beyonce? No. Does she have a better creative eye than Beyonce? No. Visuals? No. Concerts? No. So because she checks one box for y'all, that just means that all of the other boxes no longer count. And if we want to talk about numbers, let's get into, I'm sorry, but we're going to get into the whole thing about race. This is a white woman in America who pretty much, what's that? I'm doing a video. This is a white woman in America who pretty much literally speaks to that audience in that way. You want to know why, in my opinion, so many white people love Taylor? Is because she's a really basic, average white girl. And they connect with that, in America in particular. They very much so connect with that. That's why. So, are we really going to sit up here and act like the numbers are, like that's not the reason the numbers are so crazy in her favor versus Beyonce? Not to say that Beyonce does not capture a white or Caucasian audience, but are we really gonna sit up here and act like that doesn't play into it? Like the white population in America is not way more higher than everybody else? Is that what we're gonna do? And if we really want to talk about it, this to me even speaks even more to Beyonce's greatness, is that when you look at a Taylor Swift concert, look at all of the picture. It is a sea of white people, mostly white women. A sea of white women. You barely gonna see a speck of color in there. You look at a Beyonce concert, it's an array of color. White, black, Latino, Asian, everything across the board. Gay, straight, whatever it is that you identify as. Her crowd is way more diverse than a Taylor's, which to me even speaks even more to her impact. Like, what are we even really talking about right now? What are we even talking about right now? For real. And then, let's just get off of them because I'm done. They shouldn't even be talked about. So my thing is, if we shouldn't be comparing Taylor to Beyonce for all of those reasons, what on God's green earth makes, what comes out of, what are y'all on to make y'all ever compare this woman to Michael Joseph Jackson? So to me, what it gives me is that a lot of y'all, that anybody that says that, you are very young and very ill-informed. Both of those things. You're both very young and you're very much so ill-informed. Both of those things. Because again, if I say she don't even come close to Beyonce, what makes you think she comes close to Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson wins for all of the reasons that I said that Beyonce wins in 10 times fold. Do we really have to have a conversation about that? There are people who have probably never, ever even had a lick of electricity who knows who's Michael Joseph Jackson is. We're talking about a man who sold as much as he did pre-streaming, physical. And Beyonce did too during her time. But we're talking about somebody who sold legit records in the pre-internet, pre-streaming time. Is this what we're doing? People are literally passing out at the sight of him at concerts. Literally. The whole world stopped when this man died. Literally. You know how Beyonce said, world stop. That's what happened when he died. Literal stopped. Nothing moved when that man died. So, what we're never gonna do, we not on this lifetime, the next lifetime. We're talking about somebody, like I said, about how Beyonce spans generations and stuff. So, if y'all want to talk about numbers, you can't talk about numbers when it comes to Michael Joseph Jackson. You just can't. You can't. And like I said, if we're talking about demographics, you're talking about somebody who spanned not only racial barriers, but we're talking about ages. We're talking about generations. We're talking about a man who had songs that came out in the 70s, back to longevity. We're talking about who had songs come out in the 70s that kids who wasn't even thought of at the time know to this day. Dance moves that kids know to this day that wasn't even thought of when this man was doing this stuff. But you want to compare somebody who was putting in work since he was again, you want to talk about somebody who was putting in work since he was a child to the time he died, which was 50, to a person who just started in 2006. Like let's really have, like I said, not to try to take away and say that that's not a long time, but we're talking about somebody who was in there, who started in the 70s. Hello? If he would still be alive to this day, this man is selling crazy. He just sold his publishing right now is going for almost $2 billion dollars. Who is outselling people in his death? I get it. Taylor is big. She's huge. She's colossal. Like I said, if it's anybody else that we compare her to, y'all right. She is that girl. Don't get it twisted. It ain't not too many people. That's why she even getting compared to these people, because it ain't nobody else in her generation that could really stand next to her. However, what we're gonna need to do is keep things in perspective. Let's keep it in perspective to what it is. And let's also remember that we are in the streaming era. Taylor came in towards the tail end of physical copies and going into the streaming era. So what we're not going to do, like I said, is disrespect the people who were in the physical copies era, where you literally had to get your ass up and go to the store and grab an album. Not to say she couldn't do it, but we're not going to compare. We're just not going to do it. Because let's not really go and talk about the pop era of the early 2000s, the Britney, the Christinas, the NSYNCs, the Backstreet Boys. Let's not even talk about that era. If you want to talk about numbers, selling 1 million in a week, let's not talk about numbers. Okay? So, Taylor is great. Taylor stands alone. when it comes to this pop shit, for real, in her generation, Taylor stands alone. Ain't nobody touching her. Big facts. Ain't nobody touching her. But what we're not gonna do is diminish the work, the longevity, the creativity, the barriers, even the barriers of the fact that Michael Joseph Jackson and Beyonce had to go through because of the fact that they're black. We're not going to diminish them to prop up this woman. Not gonna happen. Not on my damn watch. Not gonna happen. Don't y'all ever sit in y'all daggone phones, sit on y'all phones and try to compare that woman to those two people. Specifically not Michael Joseph Jackson. Not to Beyonce either. But damn sure not to Michael Joseph Jackson. His name shouldn't even be close. Neither should Beyonce's, as far as I'm concerned. There is no comparison. You can't compete where you don't compare. Talk about her and Rihanna. Have that conversation. It's a much better conversation to have than her and Beyonce. Just because they're on tour right now at the same time, and y'all, because all y'all have as far as the Swifties is concerned, is the fact that, oh, she's selling more, and oh, she writes all her stuff. That's all y'all have. Y'all literally have nothing else. And if we really could talk about the numbers, if y'all want to, we could really have a conversation about the numbers if y'all really wanted to. Really, truly wanted to have a conversation, we could. But numbers doesn't make you a better artist. I want y'all to be very clear on that. Numbers does not make you a better artist. And if you do want to use numbers, I don't understand why y'all comparing her to Michael Jackson. There should be no reason for y'all to even talk if that's y'all basis is numbers. And again, to close this up, like I said, Beyonce had multiple #1 albums and multiple #1 hits before Taylor Swift was even thought. Literally. Don't say it again. I'm done.